da min manda. Kör manda.
Ja, maar kiespel.
Ainda apetsi. Niibing. Ga nom de fiets. Binget. Niibing. Ich bin Niibing. Nee. Man trick. Ap is maar begisak. Giizsookwe. In kaziajan de ujib de wo. Giispin. What a verb. Nishnaabemjig. Weshki-anishinaabemjig. Wiesene. Balpe. Nee, kiespin. Consonant long vowel. Consonant long vowel. Consonant long vowel. Kiespin hebben P present tense wina kazien. Kiespin nin magegin wikidien. Kaimem katsuguya prefix. Mietru kiespin nin. Niibing. Nuisen. Nabap. Nu hier dus kom maar kebab. Kuisen. Niibing. Nee, het is ook schitom. Ik ben man p long vowel syllable out. Zam, man op de kidwin. Nuisen. Nbap. Niibing. Man op de. Het ook schitom wikidien. Miwene shortcut. En zo staat het zo. Ik ben weer wikid. Oh, Niibing. En zo staat het ook. Gedobab. Zo staat het. Doisen. Migraine te de beschko. Migraine te de beschko. Shaganashim met de goeie schemaat. Ukraine bin jabat de goeie rijka shaganashim si. Schemaatje shaganashim met Gaa-kinoomaaged nahau. I am eating. Rijm op en dat is C shortcuts. Meer. Oh, I am busy. I am happy. I am excited. Ninga de zing de shaganashim ang tkosin. I'm. Misschien iemand de beschko. Schemaat staat goeie. Oh, present tense object Nishnaabemwin. Niibing. Wiesen. Bab. Ninga de zing. Oh, Niisen. Bab. Niibing. Ninga de zing goeie nee shortcut mappiech. Misha Roch, dus gewoon isn't and didn't. Did not, is not. Ik doe dat snap je, doesn't, isn't, ain't. Kya be guya ga babi ana? Kya be na guya wi besha? Quinoa etta nango. Oh, Gaa-kinoomaaged si? Oh, je bawi go gia. Eshki-nishnaabemjig Gaa-kinoomaaged si? Oh, nou, kom maar staan. Nou. Niibing sam Niibing Niibing nang gagawin minnem. I'll start off with this. Yeah, I'm going to have to explain not so much the sentence patterns, just what I'm doing here. Yeah, before everything started, Monty wrote to me to say, here are some students' questions. This is what they would like to know. So I went through what I have on my computer from teaching in previous years, when I was teaching over here for the university. So I found some stuff. So since I'm not going to be seeing you again until next summer, possibly, unless something happens in the winter, some kind of weekend event, immersion. So one of the questions was, somebody asked, I want to know, I hear dick at the end of words all the time. It's like, I want to learn how to use that, or edic. So I had actually taught to that in the last time I taught advanced Nishnaabemwin. So that's what's here. So this is just the basics of it, the start. The basics I covered at that point in January, at the end of January, by the end of January that winter, was, I guess, mostly singulars. He must not be in. Or on the second page, I had written down other scenarios where you would come up with that kind of verb ending. That's what this is about. So, yeah. Either the word edic comes up, or on the verb you add either the suffix dic, and here I put, or its variation nodic. So it's not, well, whether variation is the right thing to think of it, right way to think of it. It's dic if it's a third person, like if you use that suffix. Yeah, and then I'm just seeing, okay, I started off with the next step example. Yeah, like, so, oh yeah, okay, the reason, yeah, instead of using the suffix dic, I just used the word edic. Yeah, so that's what I had done there, so it's all laid out. Like, I'm not expecting you to study this today and digest it right now. I'm just explaining what's here. Certainly feel free, from the mass email that Monty sends to everybody, my name is there somewhere. Hopefully you spot my email address. I didn't think to write it here. So if later at home, whenever you're looking at this stuff and a question comes up or you want to try out something else, feel free to do so. I'm always happy to answer grammar questions when people email me. And because I was using this in class, I was teaching the course here on campus, not as a distance course. At the end, I had said, like in class, I said, okay, let's think of some other things. We'll try this out. Does this happen all the time? How consistent is this pattern? So I had just left it blank. And I thought, since here, you're going to go away, I thought, okay, I'll put in some examples for them. So I got those the examples I penned in quickly. I got those typed up, so that's what I stapled on as the third page. Yeah, so just, and I ended up just thinking of examples where the suffix nodic would come up. So the idea here is the first example, and again, it's like the scenarios, eh? Okay, imagine the situation. Somebody had worked hard all day, or for a long time they worked hard. They were out in the yard working hard quite a while, and they come in, and you might spontaneously just remark to them, oh, you must be tired. So that's the idea of must. You must be. Because generally when people work hard, generally they are tired, so you must be tired. And I'm just pulling out the verb stem, the verb for be tired. that's in there. So you can see where the person marker you is, you, present tense, verb stem, and then there's the naadik. G'day Giizsookwe. G'day Giizsookwe. So, G'day Giizsookwe. G'day Giizsookwe. Good. Yeah. Right, yeah, you must be tired. And then somebody could say, and Kosugo. Yes, indeed, I am tired. De Kosugo. Or they could be a hardy person and say, oh, Gaa-kinoomaaged. Oh, not very much.
In De Kosugo, you use that go as an emphasizer.
Emphatic, yeah. It's sort of like in English you don't talk like this, but in Old English, you can imagine somebody out of a Dickens novel saying, yes, indeed I am. I am indeed tired. Just to see. You're absolutely right. Yeah, so that's what the go does. Yeah. Yeah. De Kosugo. Yes, I am tired indeed. So in quickly imagining another situation, I thought, okay, another situation. Uya, weshki-anishinaabemjig naki. Somebody worked all afternoon. Bangi et enaukwek kiwisene. She just ate a little bit at noon, when it was noon. So in the evening, person comes home. You must be hungry. You knew. Or whatever. Or maybe the person walking in said, oh, weshki-anishinaabemjig giwisin. Bangiet tangina nixangina ki bangiet tangiwisin enaukwek. So you might chime in, oh, oh, you must be hungry. Oh yeah, and when I initially penned this in, yeah, I put at the end like gada na. Gada na just means you could say to her. This is a remark you could say. That's all that gada na means. You could say to her, you must be hungry. Now again, I'm putting this in the typical Eshki-nishnaabemjig form. Eshki-nishnaabemjig who are used to doing those accent shifts, like short vowel, unstressed vowel pops up, previously stressed vowel disappears. So just in case people didn't recognize bakde, what's the verb bakde? Oh, that's the verb kade, for be hungry. That's what's in there. It just got changed a little bit just for word flow. And yeah, the typical Eshki-nishnaabemjig, like people used to doing this. When we do that, if we change, we do that when we're approaching present tense that way. We omit the do as well, but instead we make the verb sound different. So we could say gadopkadenaadik. That makes equal sense. Gadopkadenaadik, keeping the stem the same. But so often fluent speakers will, instead of doing the do business or gado, they'll still have the G for you, but then they just change the verb slightly, shift the accent, and doing that is enough to indicate present tense. Kapakkadenaadik. So that's what's happening there. That kind of stuff, I sort of eased people into it, like this was in the advanced course. So in the introductory course, I would always stick to the do. They got enough to sort out, I figured. Advanced, you've hung in here so that long, maybe you can handle this stuff too now. Third situation I imagined. Somebody has to go somewhere soon. Ngoje abdek wija wiba. Ngoje. ND is my shorthand for example. Niibing, when we say for example or such as, and you're going to give an example, we would typically say Niibing. So that's what ND means. Niibing. Yeah. For example, before the store closes. That's why they're in a rush. So knowing that, I know that they have to go and get something from Canadian Tire. I know it's getting kind of late, 8:15. Oh, I'm doing something sort of accidentally holding them back. Says, oh, you must be in a hurry. Yeah, so the verb stem there is weibendum. And that comes up like when you're just like your mental state is, I'm in a hurry to get going. Osnaweib, somebody's coming with me. Osnaweib, noibendum. You're holding me back. Noibendum. So that's what weibendum is. Okay, you're in a hurry to get going. Well, for whatever reason, you're just impatient or you're going to be late or whatever. You want to really beat the line up to the thing and so on. Well, whatever reason, you're in a hurry to get going. That's weibendum. So again, long vowel. What?
Almost sounds like a way of thinking.
Oh yeah, endum is a mental like thinking processes or emotional states. Yeah, there's several verbs like that. Manadendum, like somebody said something and I felt bad. They hurt me by their remark. Manadendum. You're sitting there smiling. You say, oh, what do you find funny? Like when you're smiling, so obviously you're wonendum. You're finding something funny. So there's several of them. Wonendum, weibendum, manadendum, chinendum, of course, being happy, common one. Snagendum, like when, what am I going to do about this problem? Pachugan. So there's several like that, eh? And those are all like mental states, emotional states, yeah.
Why in Goje?
Just an accident on my part.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, because I was thinking these up quickly. Goje abadek wishawiba. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, just an accident.
Gaa-kinoomaaged.
Kain doendaksino. It's not needed. Kain doendaksino.
Nadik. Dick.
Yeah, so if it were he or she, if we were talking about somebody else, like this is me remarking to you, oh, you must be hungry. You must be tired. If it was him or her, weibendmadik. Weibendmadik. Yeah. Yeah, so when the verb ends with a consonant, yeah, sort of other kinds of things happen at the end of the verb. Like with he must be hungry. Pkade dik. You're just taking the basic pkade and adding dik. He must be tired. Yeksidik. Vowel ending verb. You just need to add dik. But with verbs like weibendum, again for smooth word flow, instead of saying weibendum dik, it just sounds better to say weibendmadik. Accent shifts. Yeah.
Vowel joiner. Vowel connector.
I suppose. Yeah, at the early stages, like initially, when in the beginning years, usually because there's pieces being added, I tended to explain things in terms of adding a prefix, adding a suffix, and then sometimes the verb needs to be reshaped a bit. Linguists generally will just say, this is the verb inflection. Just think of it as a whole word rather than prefix, stem, suffix. Yeah, but we're not linguists. But yeah, it just makes the whole word, if thinking of it as a connector helps you, do that. As long as you've got an in there, so that the word flows well. Way bendamadik, that's all we're after. Way bendamadik, sounds better than way bendamdik. Way bendamadik. Like, I mean, I had two options in explaining that. I could either say, way bendama, you keep way bendam, you knock the A off before the M, and then you insert an A after the M, and then you add as a way to, I could explain it as a distance course where people are just sitting there reading the stuff. Yeah, how do I explain it? Way bendamadik. That's a second possibility. Stick in the connector before you add dik, way bendamadik, and put the accent on that connector. Don't accent the dum. Way bendamadik. Like, yeah, that might be a better way to explain it, avoiding the purely heavy-duty linguistic language. Yeah, that's a good way, I think. Yeah, like tugushnadik. Somebody's gone off to Toronto, they're on the highway, and you're assuming if the traffic flow is well, and they must be there by now. Again, if you want to think of it as rather than dugushindik, connector, accent of the connector, and then say dik. Yeah, I think that's a nifty way of explaining it. I hadn't thought of it before. Considering the as a connector. Yeah, that's really nifty. Yeah.
Like these vowel joiners, kind of help the flow of the word.
Exactly, yeah. And just like for it to flow the way we're used to hearing words flow.
You know, Nishnabek, they don't like when the words choppy. Good flow.
Yeah.
It just doesn't come out right. If it's too labored, then.
Exactly, yeah. Like there's a certain natural rhythm we have in speech. It's like in powwow dancing. You ever notice at powwows when they have an intertribal, everybody dance and they're encouraging the non-native audience to dance? Yeah, Nishnabek, no, it just magically they know how to move to the drum. Whereas a lot of non-natives, they try and dance. It's like they just like, it's not in their bones, eh?
Not enough vowels.
Yeah.
Need more joiners.
Yeah. It's like if I tried to dance like Africans naturally dance, I'd never be able to do it. It's just in people's bones magically. Like they don't have to go to dancing school. It just comes naturally. So that's one piece. Yes, okay, I'm going to see them for a year. And because of the questions that were coming up, because of the mixed grouping, some people here are quite advanced, and maybe I think that's where the questions were coming from. They already know the basics. So they were asking, what about bois? I keep hearing bois. It was another question. So don't feel, if this is like, okay, this is a little bit, it's like, I'm going to be trying to skip a grade if I do this. Totally understandable. That's why I put it in at an advanced course, because there's so much basics to work through. It's like a step-by-step thing, layer by layer. Akuse si, akuse siwak, akuse si tegenak. It's like you're just layering on stuff to verbs. And it takes time. And we would only have so many weeks in a term to show so much. So the other one I drafted was, this came up because of the bois question. Somebody said, I hear bois as a, and I'm not sure how to use it. It seems like pretty important. It comes up a lot. So I'm thinking about this as I was eating breakfast this morning. I thought, yeah, that's another question somebody asked. I compiled stuff in that regard for courses before. Where's my manuals? Where's the page? So I pulled out my manuals and just pulled together, taped together different sections of different pages. So these were summaries that came up after I had explained something, like with a lot of words, in a distance course manual. So I just pulled out the summary tables just as a quick reference for you for use. So the story behind these, and this is where it's, and again, this is why like this stuff comes up, this first part here, well, this whole page. I brought this in at intermediate Nishnaabemwin A, which would have been either the second or third course. Like after introductory A, people could either go into introductory B, be introduced to transitive verbs, main sentences like Giizsookwe, Niibing, Gaa-kinoomaaged, and so on. Or they could switch to this course and learn to work with subordinate clauses. So somewhere in here I have maybe next page. If you see the code SC, that means subordinate clause. But anyhow, because I had taught Giizsookwe, if such and such is the case. Bejan Giizsookwe de pichtayin. Come over if you have time. So I thought, okay, sometimes we have to say, if you don't have time, or if I don't feel well. So I thought, okay, I'd better show them the negative way of saying these things. So that's how I pull these together. So again, because we're always needing to show who is not feeling well, who is not sinking. So the suffixes change depending on who. Okay?
So these are B forms.
Okay, go quick way.
B form negation.
Because when it's not negative, it's like if I say, if I'm sick, so it's quite different. And if you're saying simply, I'm not sick, just as a statement, complete sentence, not a subordinate clause, it's not in an if clause. See.
Okay, good.
You hear see. He's not sick, see. But when you put in an if not clause, if I'm not sick, you don't hear see in full anymore.
Swan.
Yeah, the remnant of the C is that S. Yeah. Whereas if you say if I'm sick, I'm not going. If I'm sick, so swan is like pulling together C, ya. But we don't say them in full. We don't say we collapse, we contract at the tail end. We say swan. So that's what's happening here. Now, it doesn't, not the same thing is happening with all of them. Because if you say he's not sick, see. If he's sick, so I have no idea why we don't why don't we say sit? How come we say sick? I don't know. All I know is that's what we say. The other ones you can sort of relate to the affirmative. If I'm sick, if you're sick, ich bin akkusieren. If we're sick, ich bin akkusiang. If we, you and I are sick, ich bin akkusiing. Ich bin akkusiek, and so on. So you can hear those, bits of those in the negative. But for the third person, it's like, okay, where's the T? Opposite. I don't know. And same with the they, if they're not sick.
Swick.
Yeah, they are, if they are sick, ich bin akkusiwat. Or they are sick, akkusiwak. Where does squawk come from? I don't know. That's just what we say. Yeah, so it's...
Do we have to turn non Gereken dan BKA, BKA, CKA, like A form, B form, C form, or?
Yeah, I'm not used to calling them that. I just call them, I'm used to calling them main clause, complete sentence, or independent clause, not by itself, not a complete sentence.
Clause is like A form.
Yeah.
And then
B is the conjunct,
B is
like these things.
Yeah. Oh, we're getting mixed up here. I think there's three different. 3 different ways that you can call those things. I'm getting a little bit mixed up here.
Yeah, I'm not used to it, so sorry, I can't help you.
We know different terms.
Yeah,
we
we're,
know the subordinate and independent term. Is
Ah.
it what it's called?
Ah.
The A and the B.
yeah.
Okay. So usually, when you use subordinate clause, you're using it in a conjunct sentence.
Like, yeah, you need a main clause for
Yeah,
the
you
sentence
need
to
an
be
independent
complete.
For
Exactly.
these to make sense.
Ah.
Okay. And then, but these are also could be used if you're asking a question that's not a yes or no question.
Oh, okay. Like, when are you not sick?
Like, yeah.
Yeah,
like
the
question
negative conjuncts generally don't come up in a what, where, when, how, why. Like, they can in English sarcastically, like, how are you not doing something? It can come up, but it's not very common. But if I were to say, okay, I'm trying to think of an example.
Yeah.
Like-
When were you sick?
That's fine, that's not negative. Anishpiga akasiyin.
Oh, when were you not sick then?
Yeah, that's why I say they don't tend to come up.
Oh.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes you say, okay, oh, bewiji coffee twigs. Oh, ndondam ta. You really want to meet up with the person. Now, oh, oswabang dish. Shada twigs. Oh, ndondam ta gay whippy. After a while, you might, every time you suggest a time, they keep saying, oh, ndondam ta whippy. I'm busy that time. Manda dashpi. Ndondam ta. Oh, Anish, when are you not busy? Anishpi endam ta swan. When are you not busy? Anishpi endam ta swan. Yeah, that's when that can come up in a question like that. Yeah, there's certain situations where it'll come up naturally. Ndam ta. There's an end there. Anishpi endam ta swan. Ta. Yeah, and then you're going to hear the swan.
But you're asking if these would go to the C form as well. Is that what you're saying? That's what you're asking?
I was just wondering when, what these would be best used for. I guess it's more particular to just conjunct sentence.
Yeah, this is all about conjunct. That's why they're in intermediate A. Yeah, intermediate A was when I introduced the conjunct.
Okay.
I didn't
Not
touch.
too much so for questions. Not so much.
Yeah, like
In certain-
and like they more typically they're more naturally come up with if not. I'll go for a walk if it's not raining.
Oh, yeah.
Ah,
Oh,
ah.
if
Oh,
not,
I'll go visit you if I'm not busy. You want to come to the dance? I'm kind of sick right now. If I'm not, I'm kind of feeling unwell. But I'll go if I'm not feeling sick anymore. Or yeah, so just at the time when I was writing this, the natural examples that were coming up just for me to show patterns was blah, 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 if I don't, or if you don't. Yeah, so that's the only reason I laid it out like this. But yeah, certainly the same conjunct works for both when, how, like those questions, when, what, where, how, why. And for if, like any subordinate clause, like if you don't, if I don't. And they like generally you don't have remarks like before you don't or after you don't. Yeah, you generally don't say that. The most natural thing is if you don't or if I don't. It doesn't just come. It's just not natural to say before I don't eat. Just the ideas don't make sense together. Like normally it's before I eat, I'll go wash my hands or whatever. Or telling kids, oh, wash your hands before you eat. You're never going to say something before you don't. Yeah, so if not, it's the most natural idea combination. That's what I thought of. But yeah, it also comes up naturally in certain questions like that, like, why aren't you eating? Anish enjuisniswan. so it does come up in certain situations, yeah. Yeah, so the same basic verb patterns would work for those why not questions or when don't you questions.
When I was teaching inside a school,
Uh,
I always had a tricky time teaching how to attach certain negations to certain root verbs that have different endings. And
Yep.
it's always a little bit
Yeah,
tricky,
yeah,
especially-
yeah. Yeah, it's very tricky. Yeah, because like unlike English where you just have separate words, if you don't blah blah blah, if I don't, but for us that information is all bundled around the verb, so the whole word has to flow nicely. Yeah, that's what makes it hard. And word flow, yeah, you adjust verbs in different ways depending how they end. So this is how I set this up, eh? CC, at the top there you see A, CC combination. And that just came up just because of the spelling approach I use, where people say, okay, spell it like it sounds. Okay, akze. I don't hear a vowel between K and Z. So that's, and many other verbs that are like that. Before the very end short vowel, you'll notice a consonant thing. Akze. This is what happens, because that makes the word flow nicely.
Yeah.
Some verbs like ngama, I put there, VC combination. What do you see before the end of it, of ngama, at the end of the verb stem? Short vowel, right before that, vowel consonant, So things happen slightly differently. Why? Word flow. Although you can say kishpen ngama swa, it just doesn't flow nicely. Like it doesn't flow the way we're used to hearing words flow. What flows nicely to our ears? Ngam sewa. So the suffix is the thing that's adjusted. Instead of adjusting the verb, we do adjust the verb too. We hardly say the in ngama anymore at the end. Instead, a hidden I pops up after s. Kishpin ngam sewa. Kishpin ngam sewan. So that's why I ended up with that spelling.
Hope some of my students make it up to our level.
Yeah.
I got into, was this high school? We
What?
ended up getting into A form, B form,
Right.
VII, VAI. So I gave them a little base to start them off.
Yep.
And we touched a little bit upon VTI and VTAs.
Right.
Because I told them, even though when we're doing that Eshki-nishnaabemjig Wendaman, I told them to use the VTA and VTI version of what they're thankful for. So I kind of got their foot wet a little bit. And it's like, you guys are conjugating VTIs and VTAs.
Right.
So I gave them a base of like how to do all that stuff,
Yeah.
and some of them got accepted already.
Yeah. So that's what you have to do. Like you have to start somewhere. And that's why I laid out the curriculum the way I did. Okay, here's the base. Okay, now at this level, here's you're inching your way up.
Some schools still, they only teach them like kokosh, weyas, gemewin.
I hear that I heard that quite often. I would end up with teachers or people who had worked in the system. And yeah, because we never had to teach our language formally. So, and when you're learning English and French, you can go a long ways with that, eh? Like although French verb conjugation is difficult too.
Yeah.
But the patterns are very similar to English. Pronoun, auxiliary verb, down. You know? So in French, when my girls were in French immersion, nouns, it's like la table, la maison, and so on. And then, but and again, like teachers, like because we haven't, as a professional practice, done a lot of teaching for decades and decades to get a sense for them to speak Nishnaabemwin, this is what they need to know. So it's easy to fall back, and you're trying to make things easy for learners. We're feeling sorry for the poor little kiddies who don't have anybody at home to help them. It's easier for kids to say, okay, pabwin, dopwin. So it's sort of understandable, unfortunately, where the thing is coming from, eh? And it's, if we get into verbs, they're going to be psyched out, they're going to give up. But if they want to speak Nishnaabemwin, if you want Nishnaabemwin to be spoken, gotta get abadik verbs with the cousin. Gainjda. Gaidep sisno. Pabwin madap. Anyhow, so that's what, it's okay. So the previous page to this had the same layout, showing it with long vowels. Long vowels at the end, always easy. So I would consider these like the basic suffixes, because I call them basic, like the starting point, only because the first examples I thought of had long vowels. Kishpin na kiswa. Kishpin wishishgesun. The only reason I considered them long, and because they were shorter. And then the other ones I consider variations. Siwa, ziwa, and zwa. Because the suffix the set of suffixes don't always sound the same. How come? Only because of the verb they're being added to. So verbs, we just naturally change the s to the softer z sound when we've got an endum verb. Kchinendum. We don't say kchinendum si, we say kchinend zi. The only reason you're seeing it's written like that. Kishpin kchinend ziwa. If I'm not happy, koin demon, I'll tell you. Kishpin kchinend ziwan. Kishpin mana den ziwan. Kishpin, whatever. If you ever needed to say if you are not in a certain mental state. I'm just showing the rhythms, eh? Yeah.
Which ones need the Z versus the S?
Basically the verbs. Any verb. If the verb ends with a vowel, you're going to hear s, whether it's swa or siwa. But if the verb ends with an it's going to be a z, or with an n, with a consonant. And the consonants for animates are going to be either or n. I don't think there's any animate intransitive verb that ends with a t. Or any other consonant, p or k, like as a verb stem.
Is there a distinct difference between the beginnings of the negations for z?
Kishpin? No.
Like if you were in a conversational situation,
okay, how?
would it be really picked out of the conversation if you were to be using the Z and the S interchangeably?
When you say picked out by whom?
Like maybe an elder or something?
Perhaps it depends. It depends on the elders. Like some elder, we're all individuals. Some people's, some elders are a little bit more. They'll say, "Oh, I wish it could seem." That's not how that's said. Some elders are naturally gentle. Says, he doesn't say it the way I do, but I understand him. And they'll just carry on conversing. Okay, so it depends on the elder, eh? But the only reason, that's what. Verb stem endings are among the things that sort of drive variations. So, kchinendum. Anytime you see an endum verb, it's going to use the z form. I'm writing it, only that's the way it sounds. Only because that's the way it sounds. Now, just like in English, sometimes you use the same letter, but you, as a fluent English speaker, know when not to say it a certain way. Like, if I'm sitting close to somebody, Like the Sting song, "Don't stand so close to me." When you see close in that, Sting knows that Sting doesn't sing, don't stand so close to me." Close. But if Sting needed to say, like, shut the door using the other verb, he'd say close the door. He wouldn't say close the door. We know, we see the S, but the different uses, the different meanings, we know to adjust our pronunciation. So in theory, if people kept using the S all the time, if we were literate, if we were used to writing lots and reading lots in our language, and the writing was done a consistent way in our language, then people, and hear the language enough, people would automatically make the pronunciation adjustments. But we don't have that kind of literature, like that huge literature to get used to.
Not yet.
Migoimya, not yet. Migoimya. Well, that's what I was hoping to add. To have time before I retired was to add to the literature. And for different levels, there's lots of stuff being written for little kids, but it's like high school kids have different tastes. They don't want to read about Little Red Riding Hood. And so on. So that's what that's about. And then there's not very many verbs. The verbs that I'm most familiar with are the ones dealing with your manner of sleeping. Sleeping well, sleeping poorly. Falling off the bed while you're sleeping, farting while you're sleeping, and so on. Snoring as you're sleeping. Bigwe janengom. I'll sleep with you if you don't snore. Kawipe men kishpin bigwe janengwazun. I'll sleep with you if you don't snore. Kawipe men kishpin bigwe janengwazun. So it follows the same pattern as manangwam when it's put in the negative. So any manner of sleeping verb that ends with this is what it's going to do. So that's what these models do. I'll sleep with you if you don't fart in your sleep. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. I'll go sleep at your place. I'll share the bedroom with you. It has 3 beds or 4 beds. There's several people sleeping in the one bedroom. I shall sleep there too for the night. If you guys don't fart as you're sleeping, yeah. Yeah, it follows the same pattern. Uh-oh. Yeah, that one ends up coming more like a ziek. That's just what popped out of my mouth rather than zwek. That sounds fine. That sounds fine. I'm switching to a yek. I don't know why. Okay. So that's what. So that was like I introduced the basic idea, if not, and then the bois came up. I brought up the bois later. I figured they have enough to digest. This was the last lesson in this course. They've been digesting a lot. So the bois business. Oh, the other one I did bring in I verbs if it doesn't rain. So this is. I just spliced this before photocopying onto a single sheet to have less paper to photocopy. The TA verbs, the same idea. That came up in whatever, a later course, I forget which one. Intermediate C maybe? Can't remember. Anyhow, 4th lesson of a later course.
What does the TA mean?
transitive animate verb.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because that's where things get a little bit, yeah, it's not so easy to predict, okay, how the suffix will sound. And in this particular case, for subordinate clauses, SC, subordinate clause, you have options. You can do it the one way with Giizsookwe, Giizsookwe Giizsookwe. If I'm talking about I, him or her, or it animate. In a big, huge parking lot, in a big city, if I don't find my car, can't forget where I parked it. I'll press my remote thing to make it go doot, doot, whatever, you know, make the horn go off, eh? So that's an example of when I could use Giizsookwe. Oh, I switched to the swuk. I could do either Giizsookwe or Giizsookwe swuk. So those are two options. Two ways of handling, if not in, yeah. Okay. So those are the suffixes. Bois. Now here, because you have several possible combinations. With the AIs, you just have 7 things to worry about. Is it I or you or he or she or we, and so on. Here, you have several possible combinations. If I don't find it animate, or if I don't see him or her. Other possible combination, if you don't find it. So notice how the suffixes change. If I don't find it, if you don't find it, the very tail end of the suffix changes. Other possible combination. Yeah, so I just stuck to the singulars, it seems. Him or her. I didn't, at this stage, I didn't get into if I don't find them. So there's no chart here for if I don't find them. I did get into the inanimate it. Oh, good there. Exactly. Yeah, miwe. Giizsookwe bom koa soa. Soa. If you don't find them, Giizsookwe bom koa soa. If you're using the just the suffix, if you're not using bois. If you use bois instead, it sounds a little bit different at the end. Giizsookwe bom ko doa. Yeah, so I don't have the plurals here. Yeah, so that's. And then, yeah, in that course, I just got into okay, we did the animate. If you don't find it animate, if you don't find your car, if you don't find any raspberries, I didn't do the plurals. But anyway, if something animate. And then, okay, I need to do the inanimate, it. So if I don't find, or if I don't pick it up, and whatever, this was a different lesson. So I ended up dealing with a different set of examples that I summarized. So the stems I was starting off with here, I hadn't typed here, so I just wrote them in for you. I'm on the page number 3 now. Because I just photocopied the VTIs. Yeah, the patterns, yeah. So those were the stems I was starting off with. Tapanan becomes tapanama. Before negation. Poadapanama. You just need to add a bois if you do that option. If you do this option, then you're doing this. So again, in the affirmative, if I pick it up, if I don't pick it up. two ways of doing that again. You have an option.
Oh,
Either way makes sense. It's okay.
Like, I didn't catch that part about the bois prefix.
Yeah, when you're using the bois, you don't need to fiddle around with the negative suffix.
Oh.
You just keep the affirmative. Like dapanama, before I pick it up. Jibo dapanama. Okay, or if I pick it up, gishpin dapanama. If I don't pick it up, gishpin bo dapanama. So the bois is like makes things somewhat easier for learners. And to speakers, either way makes sense. Okay. And then you, it, of course, same thing. Now this is you singular. I didn't mark it explicitly. This is singular. You singular. She, it. If she doesn't pick it up, gishpin dapanazik. Or gishpin bodapanang.
It's not gender specific though, right?
Oh, no, I was just shortening things, yeah.
Yep, okay.
I just got tired of typing
Uh-huh.
he, she all the time. And then I was trying to accord recognition to women. Because in English, when people talk about in general, they'll say, hey, he. I say, okay, I'm a feminist. Recognize women sometimes, okay? Yeah, same thing. So this is just, at that point, I just gave everything, okay. Here it is for we exclusive it, we inclusive it. So that's just the rest. And I'm just using the same verb just to show how, the same set of verbs that were on the first one. I just showed the pattern using the same verbs, just so they could focus on, okay, what are the suffixes? So that's what that's about.
Oh, wow.
So this is for you to work through at your leisure between now and next summer. Niibing. I'll be expecting to hear lots of boss and boy-ins from you guys. So that's, yeah, okay. At the very least, for practice. Yeah. And if you have those charts that have been prepared by linguists, yeah, then these sort of, you can compare some actual examples with verbs against the chart patterns. Yeah. And yeah, I think, this is the first kick at the can, organizing stuff for intermediate C level. I revised this the last time I taught this course before everything went haywire at Laurentian and before I was going to retire anyhow. I reworked everything. I still presented the same stuff, but I ended up focusing on just a bunch of sample dialogues. This one was kind of skimpy manual because I put it together quickly the first time. So I fleshed it out more with more dialogues. And there was lots of like first year patterns were coming up, intermediate A patterns were coming up. So I just thought they're not going to remember this. They took this stuff 3 or 4 years ago. I just pulled everything into these massive summary tables. So I have those on my computer. I'll send them to you eventually when you're ready for them.